Hey guys, it's Danny. Today we're going to talk about some dendrobiums. Oh my goodness, dendrobiums on my channel. You might have noticed I don't have many dendrobiums anymore. I still do, but they aren't really necessarily my favorite genre of orchids. And the ones that I do really like either don't do so well in this climate, aka the noblies, or are just not so available here, aka the Australian ones, which include more than just the kingianum. I do also really like the Phalaenopsis types. I still have them. A long story, we're gonna make a video on them. And there's another type which I think will do absolutely fantastic in this climate. Excuse my birds, they're very happy about my misery. Anyway, there is another type that I think will do great, but I was never super into for whatever reason, and these are the Latouria Dendrobiums, which this one is, it's a new guy. We're gonna look at him, but also the Spectabile, which some of you might know I have for a long time. Well, time to make an update on the Spectabile, talk a little bit more about the Latourias, and look at this guy a little bit closer because he's quite special, isn't he? I also need to repot him. And yeah, start off my journey into Latouria Dendrobiums because I kind of decided to give them a go and I actually don't feel that sorry that I did. Alrighty, so before we start the video, don't forget to give it a like if you end up enjoying it, and hey, why not subscribe? I post multiple times a week. Right, let me get you the Spectabile. Let's do the Spectabile update just to get it over with, and then we're gonna focus on that pretty boy. Alrighty then, so this is the Spectabile. This is what's left of him. If you don't know this orchid, I will link you to the time when it bloomed a few years ago. Ever since then, it's been downhill. And I'll tell you why. But at some point it did bloom, and now I am watching him like he's about to unleash the power of evil in this room, because one thing you should know about dendrobiums is that they're pest magnets. All of them, no matter the type, I found. This one included. And I'm gonna give you a close-up just so you can see what's on this new growth at the moment. I've already sprayed it, don't worry, but still. So this little guy has been attacked relentlessly by the thrips, which, by the way, apparently there are multiple types of thrips in this area because I had them all. So I cut away the older growth just to make it a little easier on myself to control them, to spray him and be more economical and just more on top of pests. Hence why currently he only has one big growth and two tiny mangled tiny new growths, hoping for better days, but oh boy, it's hard. But I am hopeful. He's a very vigorous orchid, so I'm hopeful it will make a recovery as long as I make sure that I always spray him. Now, I'll make a short little parenthesis here because whenever I talk about pest control, I always get comments telling me to try this, try the other, order that, order the other. If you want to skip this segment, if you know what's coming, just go to this timeline and you don't have to hear me blab. But for those of you who are new, okay, let me tell you how the situation here is. I live on a tiny little island in the European Union. Whatever pest control you can think of falls in 4 categories. Category number 1. I cannot physically get it here because it's not available locally and I cannot even import it or purchase it, even from the European Union. There are stores that simply refuse to send to my location, and it's really frustrating when that happens. So here I will include stuff as spinosad, bonide, organic pest control that is prohibited coming from outside of the European Union, beneficial insects, whatever, you name it. Many of the most popular solutions on the market and that you see other YouTubers talk about simply cannot reach me physically, and that is that. Second category, I might be able to find it. Maybe I find a source on eBay or Amazon. However, it is not financially sustainable, and most of the times it is beyond my financial power to keep purchasing them because I do have a big collection. I would have to purchase a lot of bottles very frequently. I just can't afford to do that. DIY solutions. I tried pretty much everything you can imagine in these about 10 years. And in this category, I will include neem oil because it's a very popular solution. Yes, the gloopy stuff, the cold press stuff, the good stuff, I tried it. All it did was make me nauseous, didn't have much of an impact on my collection, and it wasted a lot of my time. So there are those DIY stuff that I absolutely did try and I didn't like the results, it wasn't enough. And fourth, it is a toxic solution. And here typically the systemic insecticides and more powerful insecticides fall into place. I have them locally, I can get a permit maybe and get them, but I don't want to use them. Many of you know I don't use such substances because this is a room where I spend my time in. I have birds here. I gives me the heebie-jeebies. I prefer to use non-toxic solutions. So, in all of this time of trial and error, I just reached to the conclusion that oils are the best solution for me and my possibilities. And I talk more about my solution down below in the description. I'll link you to the video. If you yourself have a solution that works great for you and you have it easily available to you, stick to that. You don't have to do what I do. This is just, I don't know, desperate. This is just desperate. If you're in the same boat as me, I feel you. Oh boy, isn't pest control a struggle? So yeah, that's the little parenthesis that I wanted to say. This guy is a little oily at the moment. I'm gonna have to remove some of this excess, but it did have quite a big flare up here that I needed to address. So one of the things with using oils, no matter if they're vegetable or mineral, is that you have to be very careful how you dose them, otherwise you can suffocate the leaves. So at this point, I'm considering just locking this guy up in one of my shelves, one of the glass shelves. He's a little tall, that's the problem, but I might just do it because, yeah, as you can see, he is a big magnet. So that's a bit of an update of the Spectabile. Sadly, I didn't really do him much justice, but I'm hoping. He's a strong fella. However, in the same Latouria category, let's say, there are others which are tinier. And one of them I just purchased, and guess what? Came with a bloom, and I love it. I thought I wouldn't like it so much, but I do. So let me show you. And here's the little guy. This is a Dendrobium rotostictum. I'm sure you might have seen him around. It's quite a popular orchid, I have to say. Of course, if you like Dendrobiums. And I think it has two party tricks. First of all, the flowers. I did not expect to really enjoy the flowers all that much. Whenever I saw Latouria Dendrobiums, I didn't think they were spectacular. I know some of you who really like these types of Dendrobiums will be upset. Well, it is what it is. But now looking at him in front of me, he's darn cute, you guys. I was not expecting it. I really like it. And there's another one, I think it's the Atroviolaceum, I think that's how it's called. That one has beautiful flowers too. So I can imagine if I really like this one, I will love that one. But the second thing that I don't know if I like more than the flowers. Did you take a look at these pseudobulbs? Yes, they look like a candy on a stick somehow with a few leaves on top. How cute is that? That is amazing! So yeah, when I saw him offered for sale, I just had to purchase him. Of course, got him from my favorite and pretty much only seller that I purchase from because he ships to my location. Did I mention there are also nurseries who just refuse to send to Cyprus? Oh yeah, just because transport is expensive. I'm gonna pay the transport. No, we don't care. We're just not gonna send. Yeah, that happens too. Very frustrating. But what am I supposed to do? Go cry in the corner of the room? No, I'm gonna have to deal with it. Even if it means whining about it from time to time. Sorry, I feel like I'm very whiny today. I have my moments. But anyway, when I saw him for sale, I knew tis time to welcome Latouria Dendrobiums in my life. Because I do want to have some other species that will not give me headaches. And the reason why Latouria Dendrobiums theoretically should go very well in my climate is because they are warm growers and they don't take dormancies or breaks. They don't need cool downs in winter or things of the sorts. They actually prefer to be kind of wet-ish or well hydrated, let's say, throughout the year. And having these Spectabile, which if we ignore the fact that he's always attracting all of the pests, he's such a vigorous plant and he enjoys this climate a lot, I thought, well, maybe 'tis time for me to pick up some Latourias. And luckily for me, there are some which are tinier than the Spectabile, so I can shelter them in one of my glass shelves, which this one will be in, together with the kitties, most probably. By the way, if any of you are super major fans of Latourias, do let me know in a comment below what other species or even hybrids should I look out for. This one I kind of knew, and I was kind of intrigued because of these pseudobulbs, but maybe I'm missing something. I'll have to admit I am not very well versed in all of the varieties of Latourias. So if you have recommendations, I'm all ears. It's exciting to get into these types of Dendrobiums. And as you can see, I've already started to repot it. You might say, oh no, but it has little flowers. Are you gonna repot it? Yeah. Dendrobiums typically have very strong roots. They don't typically lose their roots like Cattleyas do. I wouldn't really dare repot a blooming cattleya if I cared about the flowers. If I didn't care, if I had a different objective like saving the new growth roots or something like that, I wouldn't care about the flower. But I would know that after a repot, most probably the flowers will just plop over and be done with it. However, dendrobiums are much sturdier, all of them in my opinion, and they don't seem to really lose roots all that fast throughout the years. They can really hang on to their roots for years and years. So if I am gentle enough, which I think I can be, I can repot this guy without disturbing him way too much. Even if I snap a few roots, he's just not gonna be bothered with it. Obviously, if you want to keep it very extra safe, and if you can, postpone repotting for whenever the orchid you have, not only dendrobiums, whatever orchid you have stops blooming. I'm just not going to do that today. I'm okay losing these flowers. I have another flower spike sprouting, and I have been enjoying the flowers for about a week. It's enough for me. I'm more concerned with the roots and if I have snails in the root system. Alrighty, so if you were thinking, oh, she's gonna pot this orchid just like she pots any other orchid, you're right, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Particularly because these guys are kind of thirsty. They're not very drought tolerant. They're just gonna shrivel up instantly when you skip watering day. This is what I found with the spectabile. So I wanna make sure that I have quite a great deal of water retention in this pot. Because oh boy, summertime. It's coming. Okay, I think I'm actually gonna put a little bit of moss in the root ball, which some of you will say, oh no, don't do that. Well, obviously, if you're in a much cooler environment, don't do this. But if you're in the desert, this will help you out a lot. So going back a little bit to that whole discussion about the insecticide, actually pest control solutions that you use, because not everybody uses insecticides. Let's call it pest control strategies and techniques. As I was saying, if you found something that works out great for you, stick to that. And if you are somewhat in the same boat as I am, meaning having to spend a lot of money to maybe purchase some stuff that other people are using, maybe you see them in videos or blogs or whatever, I would advise you to just try to find solutions that are easy for you to obtain and are realistic at the end of the day, because one thing most of us don't think about, and I have to say, I was in the same place. I didn't think about how sustainable a certain method would be. I would advise you to think about the future a little bit as well, because pest control is not a one-time thing. You just spray everything once and poof, your problems are over forever. No, pest control is sadly a continuous thing. It will always come back. No matter what you do, even if you don't purchase more orchids, you can bring pests on your clothes from the outside world. Pests can come through the window. There are a multitude of ways in which pests can find their way to your plants and to your orchids. So you'll have to have a good solution for the future as well. And having to purchase or import or, I don't know, insert solution here that will not only be very, very costly, but also very hard to do again in the future, I don't think that's a good solution. I think it's better to invest your time and energy into testing out stuff that you either have locally, either you can actually make at home. You guys know I'm not a big fan of DIY solutions and things of the sorts, but whenever you can, and you can actually imitate very well a product that you can purchase, definitely try to do that if you have no other choice. For example, the oily solutions that I use are just an imitation of horticultural oils that are based on mineral oil, nothing else. I didn't try to invent the wheel, but I have no access to those horticultural oils at all, like at all. So I had to DIY them. And luckily for me, it wasn't hard. Sure, they might not be as safe because I have to be careful with the ratios, but you know, works out. I have no choice. So if I am to choose between a solution which will work, but it's hard for me to have access to, and maybe, yeah, I got it now, but in the future I might not have access to it, I'd rather not use that because it's just not sustainable. I'd rather invest my energy, as painful as it is sometimes to deal with pests, I'd rather use that time and maybe those finances in testing and finding something that I know I can depend on in the future, you know? And I will have to say, in this quest of finding the perfect horticultural oil, I challenged my brain to really dig and think logically. What the heck is that solution? What does it contain? What other products can have that particular solution? And in what shape or form? And I have to say, after all of that, my latest solution, let me just show you. Most of you know it, but yeah. My latest solution with the leaf shine based on paraffin oil, has been such a game changer. It's such a risky one. I mean, you do this, game over. It's game over. That leaf will not survive. You do this, then you're good, you know? It's so risky, and I did suffocate a few leaves until I kind of caught on what I had to do, but it's so fast, it's so easy, and it's so cheap because you only need the tiniest sprays to coat that leaf with a little bit of paraffin oil, which evaporates very fast. It usually depends on the leaf, but usually for me it lasts anywhere from a few days to a week or two on the leaf. On the top part, it usually lasts more because there aren't stomatas here. On the underside, it doesn't last that much, but I don't apply a lot of it anyway because I don't want to clog up the stomatas. But I want to add enough so that I suffocate all the pests. And I kinda, through trial and error, found the magical ratio and touch, which is something obviously I can't explain. But because of necessity, I can't believe I came up with this. Because and I said this in the past in other videos, we stay away from leaf shine. It's a no-no. And when I say leaf shine, I also include mayonnaise. Don't put food on your orchids. Especially with vegetable oils, that stuff is such a bacteria and fungus attractor. Mineral oil is not, so that's great. Typically, orchid growers don't use leaf shines, and nobody will advise you to use leaf shine. And I'm not advising you to use leaf shine unless you have a pest issue that you cannot control otherwise. But oh man, I'm so grateful that I thought about this thing, because it did actually save a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of headaches, and a lot of orchids, really. But it's a very risky procedure. And look at that, we are all done. As I was saying, this guy will sit probably together with the kitties in the Millsbo cabinet. He will have adequate light as well. They like bright light, actually, just like cattleyas. They're actually cattleyas on a stick. I cannot get over how pretty or interesting this orchid is. So yeah, a cattleya on a stick. This is how pretty much I see it care-wise. And yeah, I'll be sure to check it very often for bugs and such, because even if it's under glass, it's still not completely protected, but it's much more protected. And again, those glass cabinets are another means that really helped me out in controlling the pest issue that I have, or I had. I still have here and there. It's never gonna go away, but I'm in control. This has been a pest control discussion, hasn't it been? Let's let these dry. But anyway, let me know in a comment down below, how do you control pests? What do you have available in your area? And what works? Because hey, just because I can't have nice things doesn't mean you shouldn't either. So if anybody reads the comments and is looking for ideas in their area, maybe we can get inspiration. What do you use with your orchids? And what works out for you? How do you control your pests? You know my solutions. I mean, this is all I use at the moment. But it's not the best solution, obviously. So yeah, I would like to know, what do you guys use? Alrighty, so with that said, thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed hanging out a little bit with me. Oh no, it's just a freckle. Oh gosh, I'm stressed. This guy has little freckles on the blooms, and I was like, oh no, thrips. So yeah, thank you for watching and hearing me complain today about pests and how I hate them. I know I said in the past that I'm not a fan of them, but you know what? Just disregard that. I think I'm becoming a fan. I think they're really pretty and absolutely worth having, especially in warm climates. Alrighty, so that said, it won't keep you longer. If you want to follow me on Instagram and Facebook, I'm at MissOrchidGirl. Best thing to do though is to subscribe to this channel because I post regularly. It is my main outlet. I post multiple times a week. So with that said, I hope you have a great day and I'll see you next time. Bye.